All right, Jamie, welcome to the program, man.
Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
It's
Was a little
funny.
bit starstruck when you called me out for an interview back in September.
Well, as a, thank you for being so kind. B, as my wife would be too quick to tell you, I'm just a normal idiot like everybody else, and I can also acknowledge that Boz is as well.
No,
So,
not me. I'm
Same
the
here.
total superstar. Big head. Try to, you know,
yeah,
I
exactly.
can't even play it up.
Can't even, yeah, it's out of control. But for anyone who's unfamiliar with the background on this, you submitted a question. We answered that question all the way back in show 181, and it was about how much squatting is too much. And you submitted that question, and you said that you worked in an area of the country that had some very hot seasons, and during the hot seasons you didn't feel like training as much, and your occupation was active being a window washer. Now, if you took some breaks from fitness and squatting, what would that do? And so I guess before we get into just learning a bit about you, did that question help in any way, shape, or form, or did we provide the dumbest information you've ever heard? Speak freely. Speak freely, my friend.
And those are the only two choices. It was either super helpful or like the worst response ever.
Honestly, it was really helpful. At the time, I was going through easily the hottest summer busy season that I'd experienced as a full-time window cleaner, and just knowing that, hey, you're not going to lose too much fitness if you take a few weeks, a few months off and then get back into it was helpful. And your ideas about how much squatting was too much actually helped a lot, and it helped me formulate kind of the building blocks of the programming that I'm doing for myself right now.
Okay,
Oh, that's
very
great.
cool. And
Yeah.
so you're located in an area that gets some heat. So where are you located?
Located in Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Yeah,
Kind of
buddy. The
the
microwave.
um yeah, I call it one of the centers of the high hot desert. We're just over a mile high here in Albuquerque, and that
Oh,
makes
I didn't realize that.
mild heat. Yeah. Yeah. We're not as hot as places like Vegas or Phoenix, but the altitude makes things harder to deal with if you're coming from one of the coasts to this area. It makes it hard to train, makes it hard to breathe.
I can
Yeah,
only
for sure.
imagine.
That altitude's always a killer. I think it's one of those things that people, if they haven't experienced it firsthand, it can be a little bit of a rude awakening the first time you find yourself at altitude and you've got to really pull it together, that can be tough.
Yep.
But before we get too much into it, I'm really curious, Jamie, just kind of your CrossFit origin story. Like where did you first stumble into CrossFit? What got you involved? Yeah, how deep are you into your training? Like what's kind of your background with CrossFit?
So that's an awesome question. I've been doing CrossFit for coming up on mm, 8 years.
Mm,
8 years. It'll be 8 years this year. I started in October of 2017. So not long after the
Nice.
Yeah, so not long after the 2017 games. My first exposure to it, I want to say, was just hanging out at my dad's place. I think he had the 2014 games on. I
Oh,
I
awesome.
think that was the one. That was the one that ended. That was Rich's last win with Double Grace, right? Am I thinking about the
I
right
think
year?
so. Because
Yeah.
I think 2015 was Ben Smith.
Yeah.
And then after that was when Fraser started to kind of take over. So yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, so that was really my first exposure to CrossFit, and then I didn't go
Were you working
in.
out at the time and just saw this crazy thing on TV?
No, I wasn't. I've always been physical in some ways or another. We've got a lot of fun mountain trails here in New Mexico. I live a stone's throw away from a bunch of really great hiking trails in the Sandia Mountains here in Albuquerque. I've enjoyed hiking my entire life. I wasn't working out at the time when I first saw it because I was just finishing up my bachelor's degree. And when you're majoring and have essentially a triple minor like I did, you don't have a whole lot of time to devote to fitness. I discovered an exercise program right out of undergrad called DDP Yoga, the professional wrestler.
Oh,
Did
no
that.
way. Okay.
Yeah. Yep. That program was my stress release valve when I was in graduate school, where, ironically enough, I lived right across the street from a CrossFit box, never went in. And then once I moved back home, I wanted something that would get me even fitter than DDP Yoga was getting me. And I looked up CrossFit near me, and it turns out that the box I've been a member of since then was a stone's throw away from my house.
Okay, I've got so many questions.
Bring them on.
Diamond Dallas Paige, Pat. That's what.
Okay,
DDP
thank
stands
you,
for.
Diamond
sorry.
Dallas Page.
Yeah.
Okay, Diamond Dallas Page. Is that
Yep.
WWE?
Don't be sorry. Yeah.
Started in WCW, ended his run in the WWE. Yeah.
Okay, I haven't watched that since I was like a little kid of like, Junkyard Dog, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, like, to date myself way back then.
Yeah.
And then I want to get to the DDP Yoga. That sounds like an amazing, a professional wrestler with a yoga fitness program. Sounds like an amazing thing that I need to learn more about. But
It's great. It was great. Yeah, still is. Yeah.
What did you, all that stuff you had going on in academia, what did you get your degrees in?
I've got a master's degree. I've got a bachelor's and a master's degree in history. Folks started focusing on ancient military, then moved to U.S. Diplomacy and foreign policy. And
Wow.
yeah, and I was also pretty heavily involved in the music programs, in the music program at the University of New Mexico, where I got my undergrad.
Do you play something?
Oh yeah, been a trumpet player for closing in on 30 years.
Oh, that's amazing. Long ago in another life, I wanted to be a symphony player. I played trombone.
Okay.
So I got a couple years of university study under my belt there, but I never.
Yep.
made it
Who's
that
your
far.
friend?
This
Who's
is
your
my
friend?
this is my dog Hugo.
And so now tell me about, what is DDP Yoga? Is it still available today? Can I sign up? What's the deal?
So I haven't followed it in a few years. I'm pretty sure they have an app available in the App Store now. I know that they were in the process of developing it when I transitioned from doing it partially into training CrossFit 5-6 days a week. The way that that DDP describes it is, it's yoga for people who wouldn't be caught dead doing yoga. So it combines
Awesome.
and it combines a lot of what CrossFitters would call tempo gymnastics with traditional yoga poses. So you're going to be doing a lot
Talk
of
about a niche market. This is amazing.
Yeah, but at the same time, there are a lot of pro wrestling fans and pro
I buy
wrestlers
that.
who do it just to keep their bodies in shape. And for me, it was the first real exercise program that stuck.
Hey, if it sticks, good for you. And
Yeah.
I've only been to a handful of yoga classes, and I would rather visit Satan than go back to some of those things. They were so difficult, just holding some of those positions. It
Yeah.
was horrifically challenging.
Yep.
And that's my respect.
Jamie,
Yeah.
I don't know how much you know about Pat, but he's notoriously flexible.
Oh,
just a
man.
rubber band of a human being.
It was rugged.
Pat, I don't know.
Something hip replacement. I listen to
Yeah,
your show all
yeah,
the time.
exactly. Pat, I don't know that much about DDP yoga, but I do think that it's kind of cool the way he's at least positioned it, marketed it. Is like, hey, look, I had like the most physical job on earth. I put my body through the ringer for how many decades? I've just been beat up and dragged through the
Mm-hmm.
dirt. This is what I do currently to kind of keep the old bucket of rust in
Fascinating.
order. And that's where he built his program around. So it's kind of cool, you know?
Yeah. Okay. Geez, I'm the only one who doesn't know about it.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're doing this, and then you see the games. You're interested. You do a little Google search, and then right at your doorstep, you've got something.
Yep. Basically. Yeah.
And do
And
you
what's
wander
the-
right over and say, "Get me in shape"?
It was a slower process than that. They knew that I was doing DDPY. I started off doing, I want to say, 3 classes a week, and then slowly but surely, especially after I started competing locally, I started transitioning to 4, and then eventually I stopped the yoga completely and transitioned to 5 days a week at the box.
Okay. Genuine question, because I don't know much about the other one. How long did you do the yoga thing?
Close to 3 years.
Okay, long enough to get an adaptation from it. What was that like? Do you categorize that as fitness? I guess, what did that do to your physical capacity, readiness, and all that, compared to what you do now for years with CrossFit? How'd you compare and contrast to? I'm genuinely curious.
So in DDPY, it's a lot more isometric holds and tempo work and mobility work, as opposed to the more balanced approach to fitness that CrossFit holds so near and
Gotcha.
dear to its heart. So imagine just going as deep as you can into a standard air squat, but reaching the bottom after a slow count of 10, holding in the bottom for at least that same amount of time, and then coming out for 10. So imagine
Mm-hmm.
staying in a 30-second tempo air squat and doing multiple reps of that
Yes.
across various different moves and positions. And he's got, everything from a 10-minute flow all the way up to an hour long flow that he calls the double black diamond, that I've only attempted and completed once.
Okay.
Nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Fascinating. Okay.
Well,
Thank you.
And I'll say what's kind of cool about programs like that, and what I've seen with other similar programs, like there's apps that have like, stretching routines and stuff like that. When you have that kind of 10-minute, 20-minute, 30-minute option, I think it's a great tool for people in the beginning, particularly when you're on the go and you're like, okay, I only have a limited amount of time, and you said you're really busy at that point in your life. I know it's time bound. I know I just have to plug this thing in and like follow along with it.
Yep.
And then the buy-in is not crazy at that point, right? Like it's an easy bridge to navigate.
Yep.
To get in what you want to get in. So that's cool that offered like a gateway for you to take on, something that might be a little bit more robust in terms of its scope with CrossFit.
Yeah.
Give us a sense of, so you get out of school with advanced level degrees, and but then you joined the family business. Like what was the course of action to get into window washing there?
So the window cleaning business, it's a father-son team currently. My dad started it all the way back in 1988. And
Awesome.
yeah.
Was there
And
always some pressure to join?
no,
Okay.
no. There was never the expectation that I would take it over, mostly because it was always a part-time thing for my dad too, because he's a better musician than I'll ever be. He was a classical singer and still is quite a good classical singer, and he would go on tours, and when he would come home, he would need something to do, and that's how he got into it. He was then offered a job to be on the voice faculty at UNM and eventually ran their opera program. And during the winter and summer months, he would clean windows. And from a very young age, I would earn some extra spending money going out on
Mm.
commercial jobs with him. And he helped pay my way back and forth from graduate school. And I worked for him during my summer and winter vacations. And it's pretty much been the only job since graduate school that's stuck.
Mm.
And
And
that's
what?
cool.
Oh, go ahead, boss.
No, I was just going to ask. So I'm really curious about the physical nature of the work. I have in my mind what I think it entails, but like I'm kind of curious what the nature of it is. We talking like high-rise buildings? Is it just like a lot of volume throughout the day? Like what does the average day look like from a physical standpoint when you're doing the job?
That's an awesome question. I have a lot of respect for the window cleaners that do the high rise and high scaffolding work. That's not the work that we do.
Okay.
90% of the work that dad and I do is residential. And how we like to say it is if we can't reach it with our 25-foot extension ladders or our extension poles, there's plenty of other work for us to do, and there's
Yep.
plenty of other window cleaners that uh, have the experience to be able to get up to those
Mm-hmm.
high windows. So
Yeah.
usually 2, maybe 3 stories, depending on the building, depending on the job, depending on the location, is about as high as we go. Now, to answer your second question about the physical bit, to relate it to kind of life in the gym, the best way to describe it is you need to get used to standing on your feet for multiple hours at a stretch. The average length of our day is anywhere between 4 to 5 hours on the glass. And that's standing, doing a lot of upper body pressing, and doing a lot of farmer carries.
Yeah, got it.
Mm.
So when you say on the glass, it means like actually at the site. That doesn't account for load in, load out, transit, all the other stuff that you're doing just to prep for the job too, right?
Correct. Once
Okay.
that is we arrive on site, we start preparing the windows for cleaning. Let's just say it takes us 2.5 hours to do all of that. Then we load up and do the same thing at the next job if there is a second or third job that day.
How many can you fit in? What's an average day? How many homes you trying to knock out? What's an average day? What's a great day?
So average day for us is 4.5 to 5 hours, and I mean, it's pretty physical work. I know there are not 9 to 5ers out there who are probably cocking their heads and looking at me funny at this, saying, "What are you doing?" Especially the first responders, but that's the nature of our job. That's what we do. The longest job that we have is 8 hours. It takes us 16 full man hours to do. So average job size is about 2.5. Biggest job is takes us 8, and and we're really time limited throughout the day because the west facing no east facing and south facing windows get baked by the sun, and there comes a point during the day where they're just so hot that you can't clean them anymore. You have to wait till the next day to get to them.
Hmm.
Oh,
Wow.
interesting.
So it's like they get super conducted, I guess. Yeah, that's interesting. So to take it back to fitness, what I'm really curious about is, okay, you're in the CrossFit gym, you're doing all these different things. The whole goal is general physical preparation. Um, you have a job that obviously there's a certain degree of your fitness that's going to apply, but there's also probably a pretty big slice of that fitness that you're developing in the gym that doesn't really apply. So what have you noticed after doing CrossFit for so long, after being involved, in this window cleaning business for forever with your dad? What actually helps you when you're in the gym? What has like a direct translation to like, man, this makes my life easier when I'm on the glass versus, this other stuff is fun to do and I can see the value, but it doesn't really help me when I'm out there doing the job.
Okay.
If you have anything like that. I mean, maybe there's not that much that's like specifically in one category or the other, but I'm just kind of curious
Yeah.
if anything jumps out at you.
Oh, yeah, there are a few things that jump out at me on the positive and the negative side. If I don't get to this, remind me to circle back and talk about nutrition because that plays
Okay.
an outsized role in how well I perform on the glass.
Yep.
So,
Surprise, that's important across the board, huh?
yeah, right?
Who'd have
Yeah.
thought?
It's almost like it's the base of some sort of a pyramid.
Right.
Yeah.
So, to answer the question about what is effective and what is kind of ineffective, building a having a good engine and being able to stand on your feet and continue to move for multiple minutes and multiple hours at a stretch without having to sit down is crucial to get to narrow things even further. Farmer carries, especially heavy farmer carries, are crucial, and a lot of upper body pressing movements are really helpful just for that upper body stability and because you are pressing things into a flat piece of glass. Most people wouldn't think that a dumbbell incline bench press is all that functional, but for me it is because I have to be able to press my
Mm,
my arm in every angle, not just 90 degrees horizontal or 90 degrees horizontal here, 90 degrees vertical here,
right.
but in every axis in in front of me, I have to be able to move my arm. Now on the negative side, and I appreciate you guys answering my question for just this reason, squatting too much and lunging too much and doing an overabundance of kipping gymnastics, especially for a guy like me with the world's most inefficient kip, is going to cause problems because in my day job, I'm squatting a lot and I'm lunging a lot and I'm using my shoulders a lot. So
Mm,
right now, I only squat once a week, and that gives me enough of a base of strength. I squat a lot that day, and it gives me a big base of strength without putting my knees in so much pain that I can't go to the job after taking a couple days off. I squat on Friday, so take the weekend off, and usually I've fully recovered and I'm back pain free on Monday.
Got it. So that's kind of how you figured out to shoehorn it in. You can get the benefit of it by doing it, but it's not going to impact your ability to be on your feet for long hours and do your physical job.
Yeah.
by
Can I tell a quick story about that?
Yeah, but you strategically put it at the end of the week for that reason. Yeah, okay,
Exactly.
gotcha.
Yeah. I squat on Friday. I squat on Friday. I do an interval style Metcon on Saturday, which is usually just a combination of machine work and weightlifting, and rest day Sunday, and I'm usually right back to 100%. But last summer, I took a good amount of time away from the gym just to let my body and mind heal. And there's a job that we do twice a year that has me doing about 150 feet of walking lunges onto either concrete or granite. Doesn't sound like a lot,
Doesn't
but
sound fun.
thank you. And when I did that job last year in the middle of my break, I almost broke down and cried because I realized about 2/3 of the way through that that was the first time in a good 2 or 3 years that I had done every single window on that bank of windows without wincing from knee pain once. And I
Oh,
realized,
that's awesome.
yeah, okay, things have to change. And that's why I really only squat once a week on Fridays now.
Well, you only squat once a week in the gym. Sounds like you
Yes.
squat plenty.
Yes,
Right,
I only squat once a week in the gym. True.
Yeah, yeah. I know you said
Yeah.
to circle back to nutrition, but before we get there, based upon this demands of the job, some of it sounds, well, it sounds demanding, obviously, but some of it sounds quite repetitive. Are there traditional injuries associated with just knees, back, or shoulders of what you're doing, or just, what's been your take on that?
So knees, back, and shoulders aren't that big of a problem. It's the smaller, it's even smaller joints that we're talking about that are at risk. When you're talking about climbing ladders, especially extension ladders, the rungs on those things are only about this
Mm-hmm.
wide. So imagine having to stand on there for however long it takes to clean a bank of windows, climb up and down it repetitively. That'll put some pretty gnarly strain on your feet. But then it's the wrists and the elbows that take the most beating,
Interesting.
especially when we're cleaning a window that's got a lot of water stain or a lot of other gunk on it, because you have to really, really scrub and work hard on those windows to get all that stuff
Gotcha.
off of the windows. And the impact is just felt more in the hand, in the wrist, and in the elbow.
I'm sure you show up to some places and you're like, all right, cool, this isn't going to be too bad. Some places you're like, what is this, a crime scene? Like, when's the last time you guys, when's the last time you guys cleaned these things here?
Yeah,
So,
we've seen over the 30 years that Dad's been doing it, and over the 10 years that I've been doing it full time, we we've gotten to the point where very few things on the glass shock us. But we have seen, yes, some very dirty windows. That there was a house that we did a few years back that looked like it hadn't had their windows cleaned since the Carter administration.
mm. Do you ever
I
climb
love
up
it.
onto a ladder and look into a window and you're like, I'm probably not supposed to be seeing what I'm seeing right now?
No, I haven't seen anything like that. I have
Okay.
walked into a couple houses and been like, there was one house that we did a couple years ago that had, I kid you not, inch thick lime green shag carpet and um golf ball sized polka dot wallpaper.
Nice.
Amazing. Like
I
a
mean,
time capsule.
if you're
Yes,
gonna
I
have
told
one,
Dad the 1970s called.
yeah,
They want their aesthetic back.
if you're gonna have one, you got to have them both.
Yeah,
So-
exactly.
So, Jamie, don't forget, let's circle back nutrition.
Yeah.
I mean, because who's kidding? A hot day at work. I mean, at work, you break for lunch. You just want to go get a couple of grinders down to the sub shop, maybe a Mountain Dew bag of, Fritos or salt and vinegar chips. I mean, what's going on?
God, I wish that was an effective way to
So
fuel
do
me
I.
through a day at work, but
I
I've
think
learned
we all
better.
do. Yeah.
I've learned better. I I go through four bags of baby spring mix from Trader Joe's a week. It
Nice.
leafy greens and beans are a are my not so secret weapon when it comes to fueling, because I may not get that quick energy spike from having a sandwich, but it also means I don't get that crash either.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that slow, steady energy that keeps me going for hours and hours. I have my fruit, but that's normally at the start of my day or right before I hit the gym.
Yeah, right on. And so generally, outside of that, it's a lot of leafy greens. You get some legumes in there, some fruit.
hmm
What does the rest of the diet look like? Is that kind of the primary diet that you're going with, or is it like what else are you doing throughout the day?
So higher on the protein side.
Hmm.
Um, I shoot for between point 0.7 and 1 gram per pound of ideal body weight a day
Okay.
for
Yep.
me. So that's I try to vary it up. Eggs, um, eggs, fish, poultry mostly. Occasionally, I will indulge and I'll let myself have some pork or some beef every now and again. I try to keep a variety going, and couple couple protein shakes, and that's basically it.
Yeah, nice. Okay, so pretty clean, pun intended. And
Clean, clean, simple, and routine. Yes.
yeah, I've got one more kind of question, and it kind of dovetails in together. So you mentioned the importance about timing,
hmm
particularly because you're dealing with this heat element, right? So if you guys aren't on your timing, there's just certain jobs that aren't going to happen because the windows get way too hot to handle. You can't do the work. So what I'm reading into that is that you guys probably get a pretty early start to try to get through the work that you have for the day. And so because of that early start, and maybe that assumption is incorrect, but because of that early start, are you the type of person that you try to take care of most of your nutritional needs early before you get going? Or is that like, okay, get on the job, get things done, and then I worry about the bulk of my eating after the fact?
I would. It's somewhere in the middle.
Okay.
I I've tried, you know, front loading or end loading, and for me, it just doesn't work.
Yep.
It's too much force feeding on either end. So
Hmm.
what I've learned that I have to do is I have um, a decent sized meal in the morning, and then like right before I uh, hit the first job site, I'll have a fairly high protein. I'll have some meatballs that I make it home, and some almonds right before I hit the glass. I'll have a couple a couple salads, uh, either in the middle of a big job or on the road in between jobs, and then I'll have a mix of protein, fat, and carbs. It's a banana, some peanuts, and a chomp for
Yeah,
right
sure.
before.
Yep.
Yeah, right before I hit the gym, and then it's some leafy greens and some meatballs and protein shakes after I get home.
Nice. Nice. Okay, so
Crushing
I've
it,
got.
really.
I know. I was going to say, I was like, that's pretty good
Yeah.
for all the physical work, and then also sticking with the gym after all that work's done. and staying consistent like that, that's really good. I think that's a testament and something that hopefully other people can learn from. It's like, hey, you can have a really active day job, lifestyle, et cetera, and it doesn't mean you have to revert to just whatever's available. You know, a little
Mm-hmm.
bit of prep goes a long way.
Yeah.
Um,
The thing that I
yeah.
would say with that is it's taken me a long time and a lot of experimentation to figure out. So to anybody who's in a similar situation, to me, two bits of advice: be willing to experiment and see what works and what doesn't work. And if you find something that you think is going to stick, give yourself permission to get more efficient and get faster. The first time you do it, it's always going to be the slowest and the least efficient. But as it becomes routine, you build up that muscle memory. That's when you're going to see the speeds go
Mm.
through the roof.
Mhm. Yep. Okay. Well, last question from me is I'm just curious. So, you hopefully, you've talked about the benefit that you see from being in the gym, being fit, being healthy, how that extends into like the real world, quote unquote.
Mhm.
Uh, have you been able to convince your dad to jump in on this fitness routine of yours as well? Like, what's his take on it? Is he all in? Is he not quite there yet? Like, where does he fall?
I've got to be careful because Dad and I are probably on the road listening to this right now.
Okay.
So, Dad's a golfer.
Okay.
He probably plays anywhere between he'll play at least 18 holes a week, if not 36 or more, depending
Mm.
on
Oh, great.
where depending on what time of year it is. I mean, he lives right
Sure.
down the street from one of the funnest courses in Albuquerque, so
Yeah. Nice.
I'll get you in
he
trouble. Is he any
he
good?
loves it. Hmm?
I'll get you in trouble with your dad. Is he any good?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay.
He's good. He's got a
Okay,
last
there
time I
you go.
checked, he's got a single digit handicap.
Okay, there you go. All
Uh,
right.
and this is the thing that I'm the proudest of when it comes to working with him is he has taken a lot of cues non-verbally from me, and I've been able to get him a little by little healthier in terms of how he fuels his day
Hmm.
and the breaks that he takes. When I first started working with him, he basically did reverse intermittent fasting, where he would do an entire workday on one bottle of water and his breakfast. I tried following suit, and he'll tell you that by the end of the day, we were just about ready to come to blows. And I realized early on that every so often I have to take a water break. I have to get some food in me between jobs. He's learned that I'm at my best when I'm fueled. And in between jobs and on the job, he will, take a water break every now and again, especially when it's hot.
Mm.
And in between jobs, he'll eat something too. And it's made our jobs a lot easier and a lot more efficient when we're properly fueled and we've got enough water in us to keep us from drying out.
That's great. And I'll say, it's no secret, but often the people that are closest to us are the hardest to convince
Oh my
to
goodness.
pick
Yes.
up healthy habits or to, jump in on something that you're doing. So that's great. Even if there's little pieces that rub off. I mean, that's awesome.
Yeah.
No, I applaud you. After multiple decades, I've made literally no progress with any member of my family. But uh,
Well, I'm just gonna tell you the flip side of that
Okay.
because you know my eh, my mother is in her mid 60s, and she is one of the fittest people that I've ever met.
Oh,
oh
that's
wow,
great.
She's
awesome. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, go mom.
she doesn't lift a lot of weight, but she was the one that I would go hiking with all the time.
Hmm.
And she, and sometimes I've struggled to keep up with her.
That's
And
great.
Nice.
and anybody who's been hiking around Albuquerque knows the Pinot Canyon trail. She and I used to hike that thing all the time, and she is, I swear she is part mountain goat, the way that she can just go up and down and all over the trail. She is an absolute monster, and I'm going to stop talking about her right now because you're going to start seeing me cry.
Oh,
That's
that's good.
how high regard I hold that woman.
That's great.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, I mean, Jamie, all we can say is genuinely appreciate you reaching out the first time, show 181. I think this is going to be like show 217 or something, you know. Glad that we were able to help you out. And thanks for kind of opening up your world to all the listeners and to what's going on with a profession like window cleaning, which most people don't know about. So thanks for sharing your time, man. And thanks for being a part of the VNR community.
Yeah,
Thank you.
appreciate it, man.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. It was an honor. I did not think for a second when I submitted that question that A, you guys were going to answer it, and B, 6, 7 months later, I'd be on talking with you guys. So it was an honor and a pleasure. Good talking with you guys.
Yeah,
Good
yeah.
talking.
Well, yeah, great talking with you. And I'll speak for Pat here and say that, I think both of us have a pretty big interest in what fitness is capable of providing to people outside of the context of like, oh, I want to be competitive, or oh, I want to be the biggest, fittest person in my gym. Hey, those are great goals if that's the kind of personality that pushes you towards things like that, and you have that. That's fine. But I think it's always great to hear that this can have real impact for real people doing real things in the world. And so, thanks for being a good example of that.
And maybe we'll open it up here. So like I say at the end of these shows, always like, thanks to everybody watching or listening. We take obviously inspiration from your topics, questions, comments, and guidance. So if you have an idea for a future show, and maybe we could say, based upon this one here with Jamie, if you're a listener and you have some sort of physically demanding occupation, or you think you've got an interesting story to share, like, let us know. Find the show in the btwb YouTube channel, post that under the comments. Go to the Varied Not Random Instagram page, post it there as a comment under any of the media that's posted there. If you want to be more anonymous, you can send a direct message through the Varied Not Random Instagram account. All those things make their way to us. So for Jamie, for Adrian Bosman, I'm Pat Sherwood, and we will see you next time.